Matthew chapter 13. That same day Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. Great crowds assembled around him, so that he went into a boat and sat there. And the whole assembly sat on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, Listen, a sower went out to sow. While he sowed, some seeds fell beside the path, and the birds came and devoured them. But other seeds fell on rocky ground where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up because they did not have deep soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and when they did not take root, they withered away. Some seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked. But other seeds fell on good ground and produced grain, 100, 60, or 30 times as much. Whoever has ears to hear, let him hear. The disciples came and said to him, Why do you speak to them in parables? He answered them, It is given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For to him who has will more be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who has not, even what he has will be taken away. Therefore, I speak to them in parables, because they look but do not see, and they listen, but they do not hear, neither do they understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which says, By hearing you will hear and shall not understand, and seeing you will see and not perceive. For this people's heart has grown dull, their ears have become hard of hearing, and they have closed their eyes, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their hearts and turn, and I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For truly I say to you that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which you see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear, and have not heard them. Therefore, listen to the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is the one who received seed beside the path. But he who received the seed on rocky ground is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures for a while. For when tribulation or persecution arises because of the word, eventually he falls away. He also who received seed among the thorns is he who hears the word, but the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becomes unfruitful. But he who received the seed on good ground is he who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit. Some produce 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. He told them another parable, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. But when the shoots had sprung up and produced fruit, the weeds also appeared. So the servants of the landowner came and said to him, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? Then where did the weeds come from? He said to them, An enemy did this. The servants said to him, Will you then have us go and gather them up? But he said, No, lest while you gather up the weeds, you pull up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest, and in the time of harvest I will say to the reapers, Gather up the weeds first, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. He told them another parable, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field. This indeed is the least of all seeds, but when it has grown, it is the greatest among herbs, and is a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in its branches. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast, which a woman took and mixed in 60 pounds of meal until it had leavened the whole batch. Jesus said all these things to the crowds in parables. And without a parable he did not speak to them, to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables. I will say things which have been kept in secret since the foundation of the world. Then Jesus sent the crowds away and went into the house. And his disciples came to him, saying, Explain to us the parable of the weeds of the field. He answered, He who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed are the sons of the kingdom. But the weeds are the sons of the evil one. The enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. Therefore, as the weeds are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send out his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and those who do evil, and will throw them into a fiery furnace. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears to hear, let him hear. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and hid. And with joy over it, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls, who on finding one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was cast into the sea and gathered all kinds of fish. When it was full, they drew it to shore, sat down, and gathered the good into baskets, but threw the bad away. So shall it be at the end of the world. The angels will come out and separate the evil from the righteous, and throw them into the fiery furnace. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Jesus said to them, Have you understood all of these things? They said to him, Yes, Lord. Then he said to them, Therefore, every scribe who is discipled for the kingdom of heaven is like a man who is a master of the household, who brings out of his treasure new and old things. When Jesus finished these parables, he departed from there. When he came to his own country, he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, Where did this man get this wisdom and these mighty works? Is he not the carpenter's son? Is his mother not called Mary? And are not his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? And his sisters, are they not all with us? Where then did this man get all these things? And they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, A prophet is not without honor except in his own country and in his own house. And he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Chapter 14. At that time Herod the Tetrarch heard of the fame of Jesus. And he said to his servants, This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works are at work in him. For Herod had laid hold of John, bound him, and put him in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife. For John said to him, It is not lawful for you to have her. When Herod would have put him to death, he feared the crowd, because they counted him as a prophet. But when Herod's birthday was celebrated, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. Therefore he promised with an oath to give her whatever she would ask. Being previously instructed by her mother, she said, Give me John the Baptist's head on a platter. The king was sorry. Nevertheless, for the oath's sake, and those who sat with him at supper, he commanded it to be given to her. He sent and beheaded John in the prison. His head was brought on a platter and given to the girl, and she brought it to her mother. His disciples came and took up the body and buried it, and they went and told Jesus. When Jesus heard this, he departed from there by boat for a deserted place. But when the people heard it, they followed him on foot from the cities. Jesus went ashore and saw the great assembly, and he was moved with compassion towards them, and he healed their sick. When it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying, "This is a lonely place, and the day is now over. Send the crowds away to go into the villages and buy themselves food." But Jesus said to them, "They do not need to depart. You give them something to eat." They said to him, "We have only 5 loaves here and 2 fish." He said, "Bring them here to me." Then he commanded the crowds to sit on the grass. He took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he blessed and broke and gave the loaves to his disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. They all ate and were filled, and they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments that remained. Those who had eaten were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Then Jesus commanded his disciples to get into the boat and go ahead of him to the other side, while he sent the crowds away. When he sent the crowds away, he went up into the mountain by himself to pray. And when evening came, he was there alone. But the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was turbulent. During the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went to them, walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a spirit," and they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Be of good cheer, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it is you, bid me come to you on the water." He said, "Come." And when Peter got out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me!" Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him, and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Then those who were in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." When they had crossed over, they came to the land of Gennesaret. And when the men of that place recognized him, they sent word to all the surrounding country and brought to him all who were sick, and begged him that they might only touch the hem of his garment, and as many touched it were made perfectly well. Chapter 15. Then scribes and Pharisees who were from Jerusalem came to Jesus, saying, "Why do your disciples violate the tradition of the elders? For they do not wash their hands when they eat bread." But he answered them, "Why do you also violate the commandment of God by your tradition? For God commanded, 'Honor your father and mother,' and he who speaks evil of father or mother, let him be put to death. But you say, 'Whoever shall say to his father or his mother, what you would have profited from me is a gift to God,' will be free from honoring his father or his mother. So you have made the commandment of God of no effect by your tradition. You hypocrites! Isaiah well prophesied of you, saying, 'These people draw near to me with their mouth, and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain they do worship me, teaching as doctrines the precepts of men.'" He called the crowds and said to them, "Hear and understand. That which goes into the mouth does not defile a man, but that which comes out of the mouth, this defiles a man." Then his disciples came and said to him, "Do you know that the Pharisees were offended after they heard this saying?" But he answered, "Every plant which my heavenly Father has not planted will be uprooted. Leave them alone. They are blind leaders of the blind, and if the blind lead the blind, both will fall into the ditch." Then Peter said to him, "Explain this parable to us." Jesus said, "Are you still without understanding? Do you not yet understand that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and is cast out into the sewer? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile the man. For out of the heart proceeds evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, sexual immorality, thefts, false witness, and blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man. But to eat with unwashed hands does not defile a man. Then Jesus went from there and departed into the regions of Tyre and Sidon. There, a woman of Canaan came out of the same regions and cried out to him, saying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely possessed by a demon." But he did not answer her a word. And the disciples came and begged him, saying, "Send her away, for she cries out after us." But he answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Then she came and worshipped him, saying, "Lord, help me." But he answered, "It is not fair to take the children's bread and to throw it to dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "O woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you desire." And her daughter was healed instantly. Jesus departed from there and passed by the Sea of Galilee and went up on a mountain and sat down there. Great crowds came to him, having with them those who were lame, blind, mute, maimed, and many others, and placed them down at Jesus' feet, and he healed them. So that the crowds wondered when they saw the mute speak, the maimed made whole, the lame walk, and the blind see. And they glorified the God of Israel. Then Jesus called his disciples to him and said, "I have compassion on the crowd, because they have remained with me now for 3 days and have nothing to eat. I will not send them away hungry, lest they faint on the way." His disciples said to him, "Where will we get enough bread in the wilderness to feed such a crowd?" Jesus said to them, "How many loaves do you have?" And they said, 7, and a few little fish. He commanded the crowd to sit down on the ground. He took the 7 loaves and the fish, gave thanks, broke them, and gave them to his disciples. And the disciples gave them to the crowd. They all ate and were filled. And they collected 7 baskets full of the broken pieces that were left. Those who ate were 4,000 men, besides women and children. He sent the crowd away and got into the boat and went to the region of Magdala. Chapter 16. The Pharisees and Sadducees came and, testing him, asked him to show them a sign from heaven. He answered them, "When it is evening, you say, 'It will be fair weather, for the sky is red.' And in the morning, 'It will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and overcast.' O you hypocrites! You can discern the face of the sky, but you cannot discern the sign of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation seeks for a sign, but no sign shall be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah." So he left them and departed. But when his disciples reached the other side, they had forgotten to take bread. Then Jesus said to them, "Take heed and beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." They reasoned among themselves, saying, "It is because we have taken no bread." But when Jesus perceived it, he said to them, "O you of little faith, why reason among yourselves that it is because you have brought no bread? Do you not yet understand or remember the 5 loaves of the 5,000, and how many baskets you collected? Or the 7 loaves of the 4,000, and how many baskets you collected? How is it that you do not understand that I spoke to you not concerning bread, but that you should beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees?" Then they understood that he did not tell them to beware of the yeast of bread, but of the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" They said, "Some say you are John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter replied, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Then he commanded his disciples to tell no one that he was Jesus the Christ. From that time on, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised on the third day. Then Peter took him and began rebuking him, saying, "Far be it from you, Lord, this shall not happen to you." But he turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me, for you are not mindful of the things that are of God, but those that are of men." Then Jesus said to his disciples, "If anyone will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man shall come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay every man according to his works. Truly, I say to you, there are some standing here who shall not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." Chapter 17. After 6 days, Jesus took Peter, James, and John his brother, and brought them up to a high mountain alone, and was transfigured before them. His face shone as the sun, and his garments became white as the light. Suddenly, Moses and Elijah appeared to them, talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, let us make 3 tabernacles here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell on their faces and were filled with awe. But Jesus came and touched them and said, "Rise, and do not be afraid." When they lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Jesus only. As they came down the mountain, Jesus commanded them, "Tell the vision to no one until the Son of Man has risen from the dead." His disciples asked him, "Why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first?" Jesus answered, "Elijah truly does come and will restore all things. But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not know him, but did to him whatever they pleased. Likewise, the Son of Man will also suffer at their hands." Then the disciples understood that he was speaking to them of John the Baptist. When they came to the crowd, a man came to him and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire and often into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him." Then Jesus answered, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him here to me." Jesus rebuked the demon, and he came out of him, and the child was healed instantly. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, "Why could we not cast him out?" Jesus said to them, "Because of your unbelief. For truly I say to you, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. But this kind does not go out except by prayer and fastings." While they were staying in Galilee, Jesus said to them, "The Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and he will be raised on the third day." And they were extremely sorrowful. When they came to Capernaum, those who collected tax money came to Peter and said, "Does your teacher not pay the tax?" He said, "Yes." When he came home, Jesus stopped him, saying, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth take custom or taxes? From their own sons or from strangers?" Peter said to him, "From strangers." Jesus said to him, "Then the sons are free. However, lest we offend them, go to the sea and cast a hook, and take the first fish that comes up. And when you open its mouth, you will find a coin. Take it and give it to them for you and me." Chapter 18. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Jesus called a little child to him, and set him in their midst, and said, "Truly, I say to you, unless you are converted and become like little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself like this little child is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever receives one such little child in my name receives me. But whoever misleads one of these little ones who believes in me, it would be better for him to have a millstone hung about his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe to the world because of temptations, for it must be that temptations come, but woe to that man by whom the temptation comes. Therefore, if your hand or your foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life lame or maimed than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be thrown into eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life with 1 eye than having 2 eyes to be thrown into the fire of hell. See that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I say to you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. For the Son of Man has come to save that which was lost. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray, does he not leave the 99 on the hills and go in search for the one who went astray? And if he finds it, truly I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than over the 99 which never went astray. So it is not the will of your Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. Now if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, then take with you 1 or 2 others, that by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word may be established. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. But if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Truly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again I say to you, that if 2 of you agree on earth about anything they ask, it will be done for them by my Father who is in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are assembled in my name, there I am in their midst." Then Peter came to him and said, "Lord, how often shall I forgive my brother who sins against me? Up to 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. Therefore the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. When he began to settle the accounts, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. But since he was not able to pay, his master ordered that he be sold with his wife, their children, and all that he had, and payment to be made. So the servant fell on his knees, pleading with him, saying, Master, have patience with me, and I will pay you everything. Then the master of that servant was moved with compassion, released him, and forgave him the debt. But that same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. He laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me what you owe. So his fellow servant fell down at his feet and entreated him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay you everything. But he would not, and went and threw him in prison until he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what took place, they were very sorry, and went and told their master all that had taken place. Then his master, after he had summoned him, said to him, O you wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you pleaded with me. Should you not also have had compassion on your fellow servant, even as I had pity on you? His master was angry, and delivered him to the jailers until he should pay all his debt. So also my heavenly Father will do to each of you, if from your heart you do not forgive your brother for his trespasses.